common point of discussion in D&D is that persuasion is not mind control. The bard rolls a nat 20, trying to rally the townspeople to join the fight against a dragon, and with his charisma bonus and expertise, he rolls above a 30, but the townspeople, it's a dragon. They're not going to march into suicide. They'll maybe give some support. Perhaps some extra weapons or armor, or here's some potions we have stored up. Sure, but they're not marching into the cave first to take the breath weapon and let the heroes go on after that. It's just not going to be a thing. But if that's the case, then the inverse should be true. And the inverse of a player rolling persuasion to try to get a NPC to do something is the player rolling insight to see what they know. And if they roll low, a common thing that happens is the DM will be like, well, you trust this guy. He seems real trustworthy to you. Even if the player doesn't think that he's trustworthy. And I don't feel that's fair. In the same way that it's not fair for the DM to just make every high persuasion roll work in the player's advantage, it shouldn't be a detriment to the player for a bad insight check. Because a couple things could happen here. Now, as the player, even if you're very suspicious of this guy and your mind's thinking, oh, how could I put this guy away? How could I expose him for the liar that he is? Now you're being told, well, you have to believe him. Well, of course, the rest of the party's going to roll, and you're going to have a few people who roll well and some who roll poorly. And in that instance, basically what happens is, as the group, the people who rolled well role play, whether it was trustworthy or not trustworthy for the NPC, and the other ones basically stay away because they know that they have the wrong answer. And that it's a metagame issue that you can't really blame the players for. The other thing, too, is that this is just taking the character away from the player for no real reason. Just because they didn't pick up a clue doesn't mean they're just going to immediately abandon whatever thought process they had. I mean, they had a reason for believing that this guy was shady or whatever, but just to be told flat out, no, because of a bad roll, it's a bit disheartening for a player. So the way I run it in my games, which I really like, and my players seem to as well, is if you roll low, say you roll a 4, something doesn't seem right about this guy, but you're not quite sure, you roll poorly, and I just tell you, you don't know anything. I mean, if you don't trust him, you can continue not to trust him, but you have no evidence as to why. It's just a gut feeling. Maybe you roll a little bit better than a 10. Maybe it's about a 12 or a 13. I can give you a couple of ideas. He seems shaky and his eyes are darting back and forth, and it's just, you're not sure if it's because he's afraid of being caught in a lie, or that if his information doesn't help the group, then he has something to lose as well in this scenario. Lives of his loved ones could be on the line too. You have a couple options. Let you think a little bit, decide which one it is. If you roll real well, then I'll give more clues, more toward the correct answer of whether they should be trusted or not. But I also won't say it flat out. I'll give reasons for it. Like, well, yeah, he seems twitchy and sweating, and it seems like the type of thing someone who's lying would be doing. And I mean, you're not 100% sure, but if he is to be not trusted, the damning evidence would be that letter you found a couple sessions ago, but all you know is the initials MR or the signature. You don't have his name. And then you get a scenario where the players can try to put together that last piece. They look to the NPC. Mizar, what did you say your family's name was again? Oh, it's Roxthus. Why? Why do you ask? Well, now they figured it out. He is the MR. This is probably the guy. But that's the other thing, is that it's still them figuring it out. It still gives them the ability to solve it. It's their puzzle to win. You don't just hand it to them and be like, ta-da, you did it, because the die roll. It's kind of good, but typically with insight checks, you're trying to work on a hunch. And if your hunch has all these clues that you can put together, even if they're a lot of obvious clues, it's still you putting them together as the player, and that feels far more rewarding than a simple yes or no. So, I mean, this is just the way I like to run it. You can let me know in the comments whether you agree or disagree, or maybe your group already does something like this, or maybe you tried it and it didn't work quite right, but either way, let me know. I'd like to hear. Till next time.